What's going on, guys? My name is Joey Speaks, and this is Everyday People, the podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Professor Ron Mukai. Hey, Ron, how you doing, man?
Awesome.
Good. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Sure. So I met Ron through a guy named Andy Chan. Andy trains with my son Josh over at Logic Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and so Andy had seen a podcast or two, and he said, "Hey, I have a guy who would be a great guest on your show. Would you be interested in having him on?" I was like, "Of course." Then he told me a little bit about Ron, and and so a couple weeks later, maybe about a month and a half later, here we are. Yeah. So Ron, so it's Professor?
Yes, the Brazilians say Professor. You can call me Coach. You can call me Ron.
Got you. Okay.
Whatever you want.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about you and what got you into. So let me back up a little bit. So Professor Mukai and Professor Ron is he's a professor. That would kind of equate to a master.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's less than a master, actually.
Really?
I think master is when you have black belts underneath you. I think.
Okay.
So I don't have any.
Okay.
I'm going to get my second degree in a couple days here, which means I've been a black belt for 6 years.
I just learned, Josh was just telling me about, it's a tenure thing at a black belt.
Yeah, you get your first degree at 3 years, second degree at 3 years, third degree at 3 years, and it's 5 years after that.
Wow, that's cool. Good for you, man. Congratulations. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and, kind of what got you into jiu-jitsu and,
Okay, so I'm 54 like you.
Okay.
And when I was 39, my now 19-year-old, he was 5 years old, and he was super high energy kid.
Yeah.
So one of our friends is like, you should take him to jiu-jitsu. So we were sort of desperate for activities for him. So we took him. I'm sitting on the bench like every other dad. And somebody says, you should try jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, no, I'm 39. At that time, I was probably 20 pounds, 30 pounds heavier than I am now.
Okay.
And like everybody else, I thought I had activities. I surfed. I snowboarded. I did other things. But most people that surf twice a month, and then you pass it off as exercise, but you're not really doing any exercise.
Okay.
So they get me on the mat. They tell me, it's like chess with your body. And I'm like, that's intriguing. So I get on the mat, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And I had probably my second week in, I had this crazy thing happen to me where I worked so hard, all the potassium got sucked out of my extremities. It's called hypoketosis.
Okay.
And they had to rush me to the emergency room.
Wow.
It's crazy because, so my black belt's blind. So I was training in the morning with him and another guy, Sam, who's an MMA fighter.
Okay.
And I go out to the car, and this happens to me. It's the second time it happened to me because I was really out of shape.
Okay.
I was drinking 8 Diet Cokes a day, right? Thinking that I was healthy. And I'm sitting in the car, and something told me, if you don't get out of this car and walk back in there right now, you're going to die in this car.
Oh, wow.
So I get out. I walk back in, I lay on the mat. Now remember, I didn't know these people. I just been training there for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I said, hey, Bill, I think you need to take me to the hospital. He's like, you're fine. You're probably just, freaking out. Just calm down. By the time they got me in the car, I was stiff like a board because all the potassium had drained out of my body. I mean, imagine you get a cramp.
Yeah.
My whole body was cramping. And they drove me there, and really, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but that really saved my life because that health episode caused them to do all these tests, which they saw an abnormality in one of my blood tests, which led to my diagnosis of cancer. So when people say jiu-jitsu saved my life, jiu-jitsu actually saved my life. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So at 39, I started jiu-jitsu. I got really into it, started competing a lot. My kid was competing a lot. Fast forward 2016, I opened up my own gym.
Okay.
And then I just did that every day pretty much. And then in 2022, I opened up a nonprofit jiu-jitsu school called East LA Jiu Jitsu, which is really one of my main passions, which I do today. So,
and we're going to get into that in a few minutes. Yeah. Okay. So when you first started training jiu-jitsu, did you immediately jump in obviously after this episode, but did you immediately become a competitor, or did you just train, for the love of the sport and then say, hey, I'm good at this, I like this, I want to do this? Or were you like, I just want to go?
Well, briefly talking to you before this, I think we're kind of the same kind of guy. Where if we're going to do something, we're all in.
Yeah.
So I was all in. From the first day, I was all in.
Okay.
So I went, so I probably was 180 when I started. I dropped down to the category's light feather. So I would cut to 137 competing. So I lost about 40 pounds right off the get-go.
Wow.
Just from, doing jiu-jitsu so much. So
like a big lifestyle change.
Oh, it was huge.
Did you change your diet also, or was it strictly just training?
Correct, because one of the things I like about jiu-jitsu is there's immediate physical consequences for your mental and your physical behavior.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
if you're overweight, it's not working for you. You're getting smashed.
Yeah.
And so that is an incentive to not eat so many donuts, to change your life.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. So every physical and mental weakness, I had to deal with it. Otherwise, I had a physical consequence.
Right. Yeah. I think in high level sports, like when people are watching basketball, baseball, football, jiu-jitsu, MMA, the guys, I just had Thiago Silva on.
Yeah, he's my buddy.
Yeah,
he's an awesome guy.
Monster. And I was telling him, I said, you make it look so easy. It's very effortless as, just the way that he rolls, and, especially he's just dominant. And it makes people who have never done it before think that they can do it because he makes it look so easy. It's not the case.
No.
And so in sports, the guys who you're competing against, everyone's trying to get the same thing. And so if you are not putting in the work that everyone else has, if not more, like you don't have a chance. Like at a recreational level, sure, anyone can beat anybody. But at a competitive level, like if you're not putting in the work, like you just don't have a chance. And in a combat sport like what you're doing, like there really are physical consequences.
Yes.
It's one thing to just get your butt kicked in a baseball, football, basketball game, but it's another thing to get beat up.
And you can't blame it on anybody else.
That's 100%.
You can't blame it on your defense. You can't blame it on your goalie.
Yeah.
It's you and the other person, and it is what it is.
Yeah. So, did you like to do any other martial arts, or was jiu-jitsu just introduced to you the way that you said earlier, and you were like, let me just give it a shot?
Well, I did a little bit of kung fu in college.
Okay.
But really, so this is interesting, Kay. By the time you're 25 or so, you pretty much know what you like. You have the same hairstyle, you wear the same clothes, you go to the same restaurant, order the same dish. You have the same friends, right?
Yeah, okay.
You don't really try anything new. When I tried jiu-jitsu, it was so outside my wheelhouse. And plus, I wasn't good at it.
Okay.
I was a 39-year-old overweight guy. And back then it was different. It was not so kind and gentle. So, and my school was old school. So I just got beat up pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what the guard is, right? When you're in between the guys.
Yep.
So I didn't pass anybody's guard for 6 months. I just got submitted continuously for 6 months. I didn't have 1 second of victory. I just lost for 6 months.
That's tough.
But what it did for me, and this was kind of one of the keys in my life, is you grow through adversity, through failure. Yeah. Like I always tell this to parents when they walk in. I said, think about the moment in life where you figured out who's who, you figured out who your spouse is, you figure out what you're made out of. It's not when you're in Disneyland. It's when you're failing in life.
Yeah.
Right? And so what that did for me is it made me dig deep. It made me understand who I am and who I am not. And again, like you, failure is not an option. So it really made me sort of understand the things I needed to change in my mentality and my diet and everything, and sort of go there. That's what I loved about jiu-jitsu. It wasn't even learning how to fight. It was what it did for me mentally.
Yeah.
And it sort of took me back to when I was young and hungry.
Yeah. That's interesting. When I was young, when my friends were out partying and, chasing girls and doing stuff, and I didn't realize what I was doing, but I knew that if I was doing what I was doing, and I was at the cage taking my swings, working on my game, I knew that they weren't. And I wasn't sure. I'm 14 years old at this time. I wasn't sure how to really put it in perspective, but like I just knew that I was doing something right, because every time that I would be in a game, I wasn't thinking. I was just reacting, and the reacting is from the thousands of swings that I took. So I totally get that, man. It really is. It's the love of what you're doing, and so when you love something, like you do it, and you're not, yeah. So that's cool. That's cool, man. And so you said that your son was doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, and he still does it. He's 19 now.
Oh yeah.
So and then my wife does it. My wife just got her black belt, so she won as a brown belt. She won the Master Worlds, which is the biggest tournament for people over 30. She won in Vegas this last August.
Okay.
So we give her a black belt on the podium because
that's awesome.
Where are you going to go as a brown belt when you win the Worlds, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So her and I, all of our kids. I have 4 kids. Diego, who's 19, Santi, 15, Mila, who's 10, and Ezzy, who's 7, and we all do jiu-jitsu.
Nice. That's awesome, man. As a dad, I totally get that. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about. You talked about your nonprofit a little earlier. Tell me about what started that. Like, what kind of started the process for you to want to do a nonprofit?
So originally when I did jiu-jitsu, I wasn't doing it to make any statement. I was doing it because I just loved it.
Yeah.
It was something new. Like I said, it was difficult, and it really helped me mentally, which is what I needed, because most people, they either live in the past with regret, or they live in the future out of fear. They don't really enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can relate to that. It's like where you're at is not the place you want to be. It's something, the next. Oh, that's great, but what about the next? Oh, this is good, but when I achieve this, then I'm going to be content. Right. And so you start living years or even decades of your life like that. And you realize, I'm not really enjoying life. I'm just getting through to the next level. Productivity was my goal.
Okay.
What I like about jiu-jitsu is it just makes you be in the moment. So, and you learn from your mistakes, you correct them, but it's a moment in time. You have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And it helps you understand who you are. So all these character building things, I learned myself. This is why I love to teach jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So then what I realized through Ethos, which is my jiu-jitsu school in Fullerton, which I opened in 2016.
Oh, so you have 2 schools?
Correct. So in 2016, I opened up Ethos with a partner. And we just wanted a place to train. When my 4th child was born, my wife says, Ron, I can no longer drive from La Habra to Los Alamitos to my black belt school to train.
Okay.
We got to figure out something else. So then I went and talked to my black belt. He gave me his blessing. My partner Jerry and I, we opened up our school in Fullerton, and we just had this great neighborhood school, and we trained there and we taught jiu-jitsu. What I realized through that community was because now I was in charge, or I was able to set culture. I was able to sort of make the gym how I wanted it.
Yeah.
This incredible thing happens on the mat, because in a jiu-jitsu school, probably similar to here, the relationship is based on trust and honesty, because you see who's who. You see what they're capable of doing. You see what they're not capable of doing. You see them on their best days, on their worst days. You see them fail.
Yeah.
And any community that the foundational core is honesty, it builds this really strong community. Mm-hmm. And I realized, okay, this is what I was meant to do. I'm sitting here in this community, building a relationship with all these folks. And so I'm a Christian, right? I go to church. I'm very involved in my church. But sometimes church can be, and I'm not knocking church. I love church. I'm very involved in my church. But it can be very disingenuous sometimes, because you have people fronting. You have people that are pretending to be something they are not, to be better than other people because they take their identity in being better than somebody else. In Christianity, the real stance should be, you're a sinner, you're saved by the grace of God, everybody's sort of on that level, and you meet each other on this same level, that you're just thankful and grateful to God, and you're not better than me, I'm not better than you. And we're just doing these things out of gratitude to God. That's what church should be. But many times it's no, I'm not like Joey, or you could say I'm not like Ron, and then we take our identity in you being better than me, or vice versa, which is religion, which is the very thing that Jesus came to fight against. So now I'm sitting in this jiu-jitsu school and I'm like, hey, all these folks, wherever you come from, you could be a cop or you could be a guy getting arrested by a cop. Everybody here on this mat, you're the same. And you have this mutual respect and there's this mutual honesty and you're all doing life together, and it's this great thing. So I'm at Ethos and I'm on the mat and we're doing our thing for years. And I realized this is what the kids in East LA need. Now, short segue. I was born in East LA. My family's from East LA. I did a big commercial development in East LA in the late 90s, early 2000s, which allows me to have the lifestyle I have.
Gotcha.
And I'm incredibly grateful to the people of East LA for their help to me and my family. So during the pandemic, I'm at this market and I realized everybody's scared. One of the things I love about jiu-jitsu is it helps you overcome fear.
Yeah.
Because there's things that you really should be afraid about. Like we mentioned Tiago. When you fight Tiago, you should be afraid. Because the guy can choke you unconscious in many different ways.
Yeah,
okay? Yeah. But then there's everything else that is just a perceived fear that's not a real fear. Most people live their life trapped by these perceived fears that never come true. So I'm in this market during the pandemic. I realized everybody's totally freaked out. And my thing is, as a man, as a Christian, as a leader in the East LA community, my response is, well, what are you going to do about it? Because a lot of people complain, a lot of people blame everybody else. This is one of the problems I think in America is everything's nobody's fault. Everybody's blaming everybody else. Everyone's a victim. And I'm like, okay, Ron, what are you going to do about it? And I thought I've been thinking since I started jiu-jitsu in 2009, doing a school in East LA. And I said, East LA Jiu Jitsu is one of the answers. I'm not going to be so brazen to say it's the answer, but it's one of the answers. Yeah. Because we're going to come in a world where martial arts is quickly becoming commoditized. I'm sure the way fitness is too, right? Yeah. Everybody's a winner and you just want to keep them on the hook so you can make more money. But I wanted to do jiu-jitsu in East LA with the goal of building character in kids, raising up the next generation of leaders in East LA through the practice of jiu-jitsu, where it's not commoditized, it's not for money, it's because it makes better human beings. Yeah. And so I thought about it for a while, and then a buddy of mine, so I was going to raise this money and do this launch, and a buddy of mine said, you know, Ron, if this is a venture of faith, where's your faith? And I said, you know what, touche. So I had another corporation, and I went down and I signed the lease in the name of another one of my corporations. And I put the security deposit down, and then, okay, I'm in. Then I started forming the 501c3. I got the board. About a month into it, a buddy of mine, an acquaintance of mine, not even, a real good friend, their construction company stepped up to the plate, did all the tenant improvements for me for free. About $60,000 worth.
Really?
Yeah. And it's these moments where you feel like God is meeting you there. He's affirming your step of faith. Like, I'll give you an example. Okay. I'll backstep. There's been moments in my life. There's sort of those defining moments in your life. I'm sure you have the same, right?
Yes.
I'll give you one moment in my life that kind of brought my faith to where it is. My father, who was born, he was 8 years old when World War II started. He's Japanese. So my mom is Chinese, my dad is Japanese. They're both living in East LA. World War II starts. They tell my dad's family, hey, you got a month. You got to show up at this bus stop. You're going somewhere. Internment camp. So the family gets one trunk. They throw everything into the trunk. They show up at the bus stop. They slept in the horse stables at Santa Anita Racetrack for a month or two. And then they shipped them off to Heart Mountain, Wyoming. They stayed there for 3 years. 1945, the war ends. They let him out. Okay. He's been there for 3 years. He's 11 years old. Comes back. Everyone's calling him a Jap. Everybody wants to fight him. He's just an angry kid. So fast forward, he gets married to my mom. They live in East LA, and then they move out to Whittier. But that's who my dad was. Mm-hmm. Salt of the earth guy, great guy, give you the shirt off his back. But if you ticked him off, he would fight you, right? So self-made man. All my life, when I became a Christian, later on, I'd be like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to pray for you. He'd be like, you know what? No, thanks. Don't pray for me. God never gave me nothing. I worked for everything in my life. He's just that kind of guy. So he gets diabetes. His kidneys fail. He's on dialysis. He goes through a triple bypass. Still the same, just hard dude. Drama happens at church, 2009. I take a month off of work. He's at home, sick. I just happen to be at his house at lunch. Falls down in the bathroom. I call 911 because I think it's low blood pressure because of the dialysis. Mm-hmm. They bring him to the hospital. I follow. Unbeknownst to me, he had a heart attack. I'm in the parking lot talking on the phone. His girlfriend says, you better get in here. I go in there. And right when I get in the door, I'm looking at him. He flatlines. Dead. Right? Chest compressions, shocking him. They bring him back, and they're like, hey, he's going to live for about an hour. Say your goodbyes. Sign the do not resuscitate thing. And then we just waited for him to die. So I waited there all afternoon, all evening, overnight. I get up in the morning because I said, come and get me before he goes out. I go in the morning. The guy's miraculously alive, and he's awake. I go in and talk to the doctor. I said, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I don't tell people they're going to die unless they're going to die. Mm-hmm. I go in there, and I'm like, hey, Dad, do you understand like what happened to you? He's like, I said, do you understand me? He's like, yeah. Right? He had tubes everywhere. I said, this is the grace of God. You died yesterday, and they brought you back to life. The guy gives his life to God on Thursday. So he has a heart attack on Wednesday, gives his life to God on Thursday, and then he dies on Friday. And I should have never even been at his house. I should have been working. But I took the month off to deal with all this drama. You see what I'm saying? So things like that happen. It's inexplicable, but those are the things that build your faith. So I'm not just the guy sitting here now. I'm the guy that went through all this stuff where I understand these are the parts of my life that I control, and I'm going to work really hard at those parts. But then there's everything else. And everything else that I don't control, somebody controls that. I believe it's God.
That's so, wow.
That's crazy though, huh?
Yeah. So those situations can either build someone's faith or it can really knock them backwards and put them in a worse position mentally. I'm glad that obviously it made your faith stronger. And I want to tell you, so I'm Christian. I believe in God. I am, church is I have my opinions on church and I'll keep it at that. I believe in God and I totally get where you're coming from. And here's the thing. So you and I have never met before. Yeah. So you and I have a lot of similarities and the stuff that you're telling me right now is hitting me really hard because it sounds familiar. It feels familiar. Different story, but yeah. So, number one, sorry to hear about your father. But that is, I totally get where you're coming from and it makes perfect sense. And it's one of those things that I understand the little bit that you and I have talked today. The things that you're saying is all making sense to why you do what you do. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to just make sure it's kind of.
Yeah. So in that context, I'm not the kind of guy where I walk around and God's speaking to me every day. Like, oh, hey, wear those shoes. Most of the days I get up.
It's not like that.
Yeah. I get up and I have a list of 4,000 things I got to get done. And I'm mindful that I need to be who I'm supposed to be to God, to my wife, to my kids. So I try to do that every day. And then I have my list and I get up and I do everything I got to do. And then I go to sleep and I get up the next day and I do the same thing, right? But there's certain points, there's certain times when I feel like God tells you to go do something or to go be something or to go be something to somebody, right? So this was one of those times where it's like, okay, what are you going to do, Ron? You see this huge problem. It's a cultural, like, it's a big issue in America, in East LA, where you have kids, they get a phone when they're 9. They're addicted to porn when they're 10. They're totally insecure and self-conscious. They don't go try anything. All the kids that aren't the alpha male sports stars try soccer when they're 8, they fail, and they never play sports ever again. Yeah. So now they're 12 and they're morbidly obese and they're depressed because being physical when you're in middle school matters. Like I
think being physical from the youngest age that you can be physical matters.
I would amend my statement to agree with you. That's true. If you don't think, or not even think, if you don't know that you're capable of defending yourself, of living this active lifestyle, of feeling good about whatever in your mind is feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
That chronic insecurity will play out, like I always tell people half jokingly, the male ego is a very fragile thing. Like if you don't deal with it now,
it is.
Everybody, your loved ones are gonna pay the price for that, right?
100%.
So when I felt like I needed to do something about it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do something about it. So that's what I did. But there's a verse in the Bible it says, "In a multitude of counsel, there's safety." So I didn't want to
repeat that for me. Say it again.
In a multitude of counsel, there's safety. Okay. So you don't want to just go like, oh, I feel this way today and just go jump in. You want to have your advisors. And somebody told me this, which is a really interesting concept. A multitude of counsel is all your counselors are sitting in the same room. They hear the same story. And then they meet and confer. And then they give you their counsel united. So it's not like a lot of people shop counsel, like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? And then they pick the one that's best for them. No, a multitude of counsel is they all sit together. You tell them your idea. Then they all meet together, discuss it, and then they give you their counsel.
Yeah.
So I was on this other board of this nonprofit, and they said, what is the biggest trait that you bring to this nonprofit as a board member?
So you hold that thought. We're going to take a quick little break. I want to pick right back up where you're talking right now.
Okay.
We'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, and we're back. Okay, so please pick up where you left off about the council.
Yeah, so when I started East LA Jiu Jitsu, I wanted to do it in a smart way. So I'm a lawyer by trade.
Okay.
And then I got into real estate development. I also brokered loans as a mortgage broker for a couple of years.
Oh, so you were busy.
So I understand business. So I saw a lot of my peers who had nonprofits or worked for nonprofits, and they're always stuck on broke, always trying to beg for money. And I don't want to spend all my time raising capital. I want to spend my time doing our mission, which is every kid in East LA trains jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So when we started, I put together a really high-level board of people in the nonprofit business, people in the financial sector, in the legal sector, and we just came up with a plan. And here's our plan: the adults pay to train. Our adult program is a retail program, and that funds the kids program. So the kids program, the fees are on a sliding scale. Again, I didn't want to commoditize it, so I don't negotiate. I basically come in, Mrs. Gonzalez comes in with her 3 kids, and I say, we're East LA Jiu Jitsu, we're a nonprofit school. Our mission is building character through Jiu Jitsu. Every kid trains. Some people pay $150 a month. Some people train for free. What can you afford to pay? I can afford $20 per kid. Great. Based on her answer, I give them gis. We have a lot of friends that donate used gis, and we give them used gis to train.
Okay. So
there's no contract, there's no other fees. So again, it's not a commodity. It's because we want to help their family. Now, a beautiful thing has happened in this transaction is people realize we're not in this to make money. We're in this to help their family. So they reciprocate by opening their lives to us, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah.
So the buy-in from our community is really quite extraordinary because it's not just, you give me $35 and I'll teach your kid how to play the violin. The buy-in is, we're here to help you raise your son to be a man of excellent character. And they reciprocate by saying, please help me. He needs this in school. He's doing this with his friends, the good and the bad. Like, we're involved in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want. So we're building this incredible community. We've been open for a year and a half. We have several programs. We have a program at a middle school where we teach jiu-jitsu as part of the regular curriculum in a middle school.
Oh, wow.
As an electives class. We also have a program at Belvedere Park, which is a LA County park, where we teach there 2 days a week. So combined between those two programs and our regular students, we have almost 240 students.
Oh, that's nice.
In a year and a half.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I'm very pleased how it's going. But again, it's not so much the numbers. It's that people are involving us in their lives. And the term, people always ask us, because I'm a Christian, the term ministry. We're not a church. We're a jiu-jitsu school. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing that I think prohibits many churches, there's an agenda. Whereas we say we're about this, but we're really about that. And I'm in this to have a relationship with these families.
Yeah.
Because I want to have a relationship with these families. And when people see that it's done out of genuine love and friendship, not out of these bait and switch motives.
Right.
That's when we really see the buy-in from the families. We really see them reciprocate.
I think, number one, that what you're doing is fantastic, man. I so much am down with that. Like, in one of my previous episodes, I was talking about, when you're a coach, if you're always just giving it to somebody and you're always just constantly critiquing somebody and you're always on them, like you're just creating animosity as opposed to, and in my opinion, when you love somebody and then you got to give it to them, they'll listen to you because they know that you're coming from the right place.
Sure.
And so what you're kind of describing this on a bigger scale, and so for my clients, I tell them, I don't chase your money. I chase you. And if someone comes in and says, hey, I want to lose 25 pounds in the next 30 days, I'll say, I'm probably not your guy. I can do it, but that's not what I'm about. I'm about helping people figure out how strong and how great they are in the time that we spend together, creating a relationship. And my first client was a high school kid. And I have young kids up to people our age. One of the strongest guys in my gym is 67 years old, Shelly. What's up, Shelly? And it runs the gamut, But I'm more about the relationship that I create with people, and it's trust. It's 100% trust. So as you're talking and you're saying, it's not, I'm going to charge you $20 a kid. It's now they're opening up to you for you to really actually have an impact in their lives.
So two things on that. One is, again, there's a verse in the Bible. It says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. And I love that verse because sometimes you have to tell people that you love difficult things that they're not going to like, but you're doing it to help them, make them better. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's mistaken that if you love somebody, you'll just accept them just like they are and never say anything critical. No, it's like, because I'm your friend, I have to say these things because this is what's going to make you better. The second thing that you touched on, it's the process. One of our taglines in East LA Jiu Jitsu is trust the process. Mm-hmm. It's this process of doing Jiu Jitsu, of showing up every day, of failing, learning from your losses. And it's similar to what you do. So when you're committed to this process with them, then it will help them. And one of the things, like I was thinking about what I would say to your viewers, because I think you and I are both in the same business. You're using fitness as a medium. I'm using jiu-jitsu. but it's really helping people overcome their own mind. What I tell folks is your mind is your best friend, it's your worst enemy. Yeah. And doing the process of doing jiu-jitsu, it will help you overcome all these things in your head that are holding you back from the life that you want to live. Two things: the fear of what everybody thinks about you, the fear of failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is a huge issue. Like, most people don't get over that. They don't start because they're afraid of all the judgment that they're going to get when they fail.
Yeah.
Right? Failure does not make you a failure.
It's a part of the process. It just
exactly.
is.
So there's all these things that are embedded in the process of what we do that helps people understand who they actually are and what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And that's really where the victory comes in. Like we said, we're building character through jiu-jitsu. It's not anything specific that you and I do that's so great. It's just them showing up and this process refining them into who they should be.
Yeah.
And you learn through failure.
Yeah.
Nobody, like, right? Think about where you learn the most in your life. It's probably when you fell on your face and you're like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Or I trusted that guy, I shouldn't have done that. And then you learn from that and you move forward.
And what will I do now?
Correct.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Interesting. Very, very, very cool, man. Very cool. So, so do me a favor. Tell us a little bit about you and when you were, and I know we can get back to the nonprofit and we can keep talking about that. But I want to learn a little bit about you and when you were competing and kind of like what it was like for you when. So you started jiu-jitsu when you were 39, right? 39. So like, what was the process of, like when you're an athlete and when you're a competitor, the man in the arena I love that. I love the man in the arena story, and it really is. Whether you're good or bad at whatever it is that you choose to do, it really is having the heart to do it and to take your lumps, to bleed, to sweat, to cry in front of a crowd full of people. And when you're fighting, grappling, it's even the next level, So tell me about like when you had just got into it and you said you were all in at the very beginning, but just tell me about your mindset and like what you were doing and like, how you did it.
So, like most adults, in your own mind, you think you're fairly competent in what you do. You would think most, and I don't say this, if I polled 10 of your buddies or 10 of my buddies, everybody would think that they're above average intelligence. Everybody would think they're above average discernment, above average wisdom, right? They would all poll themselves as these overachieving individuals. Yeah. Yet when you actually objectively look at your life, when I look back and look at my life, I was very scared. I lived a very controlled life because what really holds us back? Indulge me for a second. Sure. It's surrender, okay? You're surrendering. When people come in here, they have to surrender control because they think there's a way to do things, and they have to surrender control to you. They have to surrender control to this process that you have gone before them. You understand what they need to do, right. But it's not their idea. They surrender that control to you, to this process. Most people, in my opinion, live a mediocre life because they are unable or unwilling to surrender control. They would rather have an okay marriage. They'd rather have an okay income. They'd rather have an okay relationship with their kids because they're unwilling to give up control to anybody or anything else. Because as a divorce attorney, which I did for part of my past life, I watch people stay in a failing known situation, then trade it in for a potentially successful situation. And I'm not talking about divorcing their spouse. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about giving up the things, their character flaws, their insecurities that they needed to give up to make their relationship work. They'd rather die on that hill in a lousy marriage than change the things that they needed to change about themselves because they're giving up control or their perception of giving up control.
Do you know, like that is so interesting and a little bit different scenario, but as I've gotten older, man, I have seen people willing to die on whatever hill it is, and literally and figuratively. But like, I am surprised at what people are willing to go down for as I get older. And it is, when I was younger, I never really as we get older, we see things differently, right? I am just very surprised that people are, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect because I'm not. And there's a lot of my things that I need to change, I've made a lot of changes, but I'm just surprised at what people are actually willing to go down behind. Mm-hmm. That's interesting that you say that. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So I come into jiu-jitsu and the first couple months, I'm like, my world is so small. I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of all this failure, of fear and judgment. And I got to go deal with this. How do you go deal with it? You jump into the unknown. What's more scary than fighting somebody? Right?
Not much.
And so when I started doing that, I remember as a purple belt, I fought this dude with prison tattoos, like full on prison tattoos. And this guy was not a nice man. Okay? And I think I beat him by 2 points or something. He was so mad he wouldn't shake my hand at the end. But what those moments taught me was what I'm actually capable of. And now remember, it's not all a bed of roses. Like there's plenty of times when I just lost.
Of course.
Abysmally. But it shows this is part of this process that we were talking about previously. It's like understanding who you are and who you are not. And that ties into my faith a lot because, again, a big part of not going all in with God is this fear of surrender. Mm-hmm. It's not the vices. It's not this. It's not that. It's not even selfishness. It's fear of surrendering what you want to do every day, who you are. It's more than what you do. It's who you are. It's how you think. Am I willing to surrender? For example, like in my marriage got phenomenally better because I was able to dig deep and say, it's not what I do, it's how I think. If I'm so dogmatic that I think of my marriage like this, or we have to, these are the non-negotiables in my life. I will not negotiate on these things vis-a-vis my wife. Mm-hmm. But I want God's best for me. I want to live. I want to have all the fruit of this surrendered life. But there's this pocket of stuff over here nobody touches. She doesn't touch. God doesn't touch. Nobody touches it. This is me. It's non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. And if God says, no, you're my bondservant. I want you to surrender everything to me. Your hopes, your dreams, your fears, how you think. Once I did that, in theory, now, like you said, I'm not perfect. I'll be perfect when I die, I guess. But when I consciously surrender all of that, now I'm trading in my mediocre expectations for something far greater. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a universal truth. When you wake up every day and you're like, I'm not going to be the guy I was because I'm holding on to all this stuff. I'm going to be whoever God wants me to be today, to those around me, to myself, because I'm not holding on to all this baggage of who I think I need to be. Mm. It's incredibly freeing because you don't have these expectations because you really relinquished all those expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is what they call, the Christians would call a life of faith, because I don't really have a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan. My plan is I'm going to walk forward, and the door that opens up, I'm going to be cautious and I'm going to seek counsel, but I'm going to walk through that door. So a year and a half in East LA Jiu Jitsu, I'm all in and some crazy doors are opening. But I digress. So on the competition side, I think having this mindset of, this is what I was going to say. And I think you'll appreciate this as a pro athlete. Most people don't want to go 100% in because when they go 100% in and fail, they recognize what their limit is or what their threshold is, and it's a very sobering thought. Mm-hmm. The first time I had that was in law school. I tried really, really hard, and I was just okay. The moment you realize this is as hard as I can try, and this is my cap, it's very sobering. It's almost sad because you see people that are at that level going to Mexico every weekend, having the time of their lives, and they're at the top 5% of their class, and you're like, What? I'm in the library all day. It's the same thing for sports, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I recognize there's people that have a bigger level of commitment than I am. Even though I'm all in, they're all in plus something. Yeah. Or they just have more natural ability, or they just have more capacity to handle this pressure, whatever it is. Or they're willing to do things that I'm not.
Well, I think there's levels. I mean, again, everything that you do, there's levels, talent, how hard you're willing to work. And then when you put them all together, like there's just, and what you're describing is a very sobering way to have to understand that either maybe you're not as good as you thought you were, or if I really want to be as good as I think that I am, I'm not even scratching the surface on what I need to really be doing.
True.
So
but either way, it's an honest conversation. You're having this honest conversation with yourself. Either I'm not able to do this, or I'm not willing to do this.
You know what's funny is as you're talking, I keep thinking the word that keeps coming to the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is that you have a very honest perspective. Whether people agree with you or not, whether they think that you are on the right track or not, like I feel like what you're saying, I believe that the things that you're saying are just coming from a very honest perspective. And I think that that's the way that you get better. It's tough to tell yourself the truth when you don't want to hear it. It is easy to look at yourself and say, oh yeah, I'm awesome. And you know you're not.
Well, that's most of America. Yeah. That's most of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things I have these principles I live by. One of those principles is I live my life on what I'm for, not what I'm against. Okay. So I don't spend if you're for this and this and this and this, hey, God bless you, you go do that. I'm for this.
Yeah.
So when I live my life on what I'm for, not what I'm against. The only thing I will say that I'm against, the weed industry has tried to come into East LA. I'm against the weed industry coming into East LA because I think the weed industry is ruining East LA.
Okay.
So that I will say. But for the most part, I get up every day and I'm not hating on anybody. They can go do them. I live my life on what I'm for. But when you live your life for what you're for every day, one, you don't think you're better than anybody else. You this judgment and this critical spirit, it just goes away because I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
right?
you're focused on something else.
Yeah, and then also it's very hard for people to be against you because you're not against them.
Right.
You're just like, I'm going this way. You want to come with me? Let's go. You don't want to go? You stay right where you are, and I'll just keep doing my thing.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of
like that
navigate those waters. I just live my life on what I'm for.
Yeah. So did you train under Professor Tesh?
Bill Tesh, yeah.
Okay, and what exactly is Leon?
Leon Jiu Jitsu is just his Jiu Jitsu school.
Okay.
But what makes him awesome, I mean, he's an awesome guy. He really cares about his students. But he's blind.
Really?
So he can't see you. He can choke you, but he can't see you.
He's fully blind?
Yeah, he's blind.
Wow.
So, and now it's gotten worse over the years. But Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things where you feel it.
Sure, yeah.
So he can feel you leaning forward, leaning back. He can feel your energy if you're an aggressive. I'll tell you this. You know how in business you play golf with people because you see a lot of their habits, you see a lot of their character by playing golf. If somebody cheats in golf, they will cheat in business. If some people are inconsiderate in golf, they're inconsiderate in business. Jiu-Jitsu is about 1,000 times more intuitive than that. So if I roll with somebody for 5 minutes, I can pretty much tell you who they are. If they are overly emotional, if they are overly insecure, if they are overly prideful, if when they're losing, they give up easily, if their natural response is fight or flight, all these things. Because you're feeling their energy, you're obviously touching them, you hear their breathing, it's a very honest moment because if they don't know jiu-jitsu, they're probably losing. And you see how they respond in times of distress. And really, for example, in business or in relationship, this is what you want to know. When the chips are down, are you on my side? Are you on a team of one, which is self-preservation, you're only going to think of yourself? Or are we a team? Are you going to help me out? I've never seen anything where you can get to sort of like the honest truth in a short amount of time, like doing jiu-jitsu with somebody, because you see who they actually are.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very interesting. Your perspective is I can appreciate your perspective. It's nice to hear. Nice to hear. So, wow. Okay. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about the nonprofit, or I feel like we've definitely gotten to know you, you know, and who you are and where you're really coming from. Very interesting, very interesting story, and I love what you're doing in East LA. Is there anything that because what I want to put your info, you know, in the information, you know, with the video and everything like that. But if there's anything else that you want us to know, or, you know, let us know.
Sure. Well, I have big plans for East LA and for other schools like East LA.
Okay.
You know, one of the things I want to do in 2024, I don't think I know. We will produce a world champion out of that gym. We will do for jiu-jitsu what Oscar De La Hoya did for boxing in East LA. We will produce a kid, a young adult, that is going to change the world and put East LA on the map. Because the resiliency of these kids, their fighting spirit, not making excuses. Just, you know, my wife is from Mexico, and my father-in-law is just a salt of the earth Mexican guy, Manny Martinez. And there's thousands of Manny Martinezes out there that they need their shot, and they're going to get that shot, and they're going to win the worlds.
Yeah.
With our backing. So that being one of my goals. I'm not in the business of asking people for anything. In East LA, I want our community to be seen as givers, not takers. We're not there to take anything. We're there to give.
Okay.
That being said, there is an individual or a corporation out there that they were one of these kids in East LA. They were that kid where their parents were working 2 jobs. They raised themselves with their friends, figuring it out. And maybe the Boys and Girls Club saved them. Maybe something came into their life that was their guiding light. I want to find that individual or that corporation because we're not the bad news bears. You know, money doesn't buy you happiness, but money can buy you 20 plane tickets to Florida to go compete in the Pan Kids. So I'm looking for that sponsor. I'm looking for those sponsors that will partner with us to take these kids wherever they need to go to compete on the highest levels, to change the world, to change their lives and to change the world. That's one of the things I'm looking for, okay? The second thing I wanted to say to your viewers, okay, is this whole experience, I believe everything happens for a reason. And what I say about those kids in East LA is probably the same for everybody listening to your podcast. Most people are ruled by fear. They're either living in the past with regret, they're living for fear of what's going to happen, may happen in the future that probably won't happen. And this is not just a message for those kids in East LA. It's not just a conversation between you and I. It's for your viewers to really think about those things critically. What's holding you back? And usually what it is it's fear of surrender. Whether it's you come into this gym, your client may come into this gym, or your friend may know you, but you're a gentleman. You're not going to go somewhere where you're not invited. My admonition to all of you folks maybe listening is it doesn't have to be Joey. It doesn't have to be me. It has to be somebody in their lives where you give them express permission to go into your life and actually say difficult things to you. They're going to help make you better. Because when you have people like that in your life and you trust them enough to surrender these, you trust them with that information where you give them information to help make you better, which is this process of surrender. Now you're not just the same guy you were, or 2% better, because it's that last 15% that's transformative.
Yeah.
Most people are like, I don't do drugs, I don't do this, I don't do that. And they kind of get along in that 80 percentile and they're just okay. But if you want to be extraordinary, if you want to live this dynamic, awesome, if you're a Christian, this faith-based life, you know what I mean? Where it's like every day you wake up and you're like, this is the best day of my life. Let's go. And you're doing these awesome things. That comes with surrender.
Yeah.
You're not half in. I just met you. You're not half in. You're all in.
Yeah.
And you're not like, this is how I am. Nobody's going to change me. If you're like, I need to shed that because it's an inefficient way of thinking, because this is a better way of thinking, you're going to go all in. You're going to do whatever it takes to go be who God's called you to be. That's how you become extraordinary. And my mission is for these kids in East LA and for anybody I meet. Now you're my friend. I'm happy. I avail myself to you on that level. If we can help encourage each other to get over this fear of whatever it is and go all in, now our lives have a different look to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That last 20% makes it shoot. So that's what I wanted to say for anybody listening to this thing. It's not that you or I have these special skills in life. It's just we wake up every day and we make a decision to go all in. And then we surround ourselves with people that'll be like, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? You say you're doing this, but it doesn't match your actions. And you're like, you know what? You're right. You have the humility and you change those things. And over time, your life has a different look to it. That's what I would say to everybody who's listening. And then, and then you talk about it, you share that message with other people.
Man, hear the message, guys. Hear the message. That was a great hour, man. I really appreciate your honesty. I love your view. Whether people agree with you or not, I think that the one thing that I have 100% taken from you is you have a very honest perspective, and I appreciate that. Very good.
Right on.
Very good. Man, that was a great hour. Thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right. All right, guys. Guys, I will see you in the next video.